All right, good morning, everybody. This is the Fantasy Sports Boss with another podcast for you, a drive time podcast. It is Thursday morning, July 20th. And again, like I always say at the beginning of every podcast, every video, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the notification button, and also hit the like button. So tomorrow is Friday, Football Friday. We are fully into the Football Friday live streams, which will come every Friday. So make sure you tune in tomorrow and have that notification bell hit so you know what time. I don't know what time exactly yet. I'm looking probably towards the afternoon, like around 3-4 o'clock. So look for that. And as far as today is concerned, a couple of things I want to touch on as I drive to work today is a couple of running back issues. So the big news yesterday, of course, was that the New England Patriots worked out not only Leonard Fournette, but Darrell Henderson, as they've made it increasingly clear that they're not going to trust Ramondre Stevenson with a full allotment of carries, as you know, many in the fantasy industry anticipated, especially those who have had drafts and have taken him as early as the middle of the second round, especially in PPR leagues. And so, you know, the reality is that whether it's Henderson or whether it's Fournette, Stevenson has to be downgraded some when it comes to his value, especially in standard leagues, and especially if it's Leonard Fournette who comes in. So take it one at a time. For me, looking at the two, Henderson and Fournette, I think Fournette would be the much bigger threat to Stevenson's bottom line numbers. Not only is Fournette still a supreme pass-catching back, still one of the best pass-catching backs in football. And last year, you know, you could knock him for how badly he ran the football. But a couple of things also need to be mentioned. The Tampa Bay offensive line was a complete disgrace. And Rachaad White, for all the love that Rachaad White got as the hedge behind Fournette last season, he didn't run the ball well either. You know, the Bucs had a lot of problems on that offensive line last season, so at least some of that blame could be given there for Fournette's mediocre numbers running the football. But he was still terrific catching it. He's put up some monster receiving seasons over the years. Now, that is arguably one of the biggest strengths of Stevenson as well. So you have to think, bare minimum, Fournette will eat into a decent amount of targets for Stevenson. And then there's the goal line aspect of it. So Fournette is the bigger back. He's done generally well around the goal line throughout his career. The one thing you can knock Stevenson on last season is that he struggled in short yardage and goal line situations, and he also fumbled a number of times in those situations. So if Belichick does bring in Fournette, then you could envision a situation where Fournette will take goal line carries and will operate on third down. So now you're looking at Stevenson, a guy who was a running back one universally in fantasy football, no matter the format, dropping to a running back two in standard for sure, and a low end one in PPR leagues. Now, does Stevenson 60 plus catches without Fournette maybe jog that back to 50, which is still a tremendous number. But then you start taking away some goal line opportunities as well and some rushing yardage as well, and that changes the story. Now, you know, all off season, I've been very big on Stevenson. I've lumped him in with Breece Hall, with Travis Etienne, in terms of guys that I really like. Miles Sanders, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. These are the guys that I'm targeting in that third, fourth round this year as I stock up on receivers early. I'm not going to say this is going to scare me off Stevenson. And if he drops into the fourth round, then I'm definitely taking him, even if Fournette's on the team. But, you know, early third round, maybe now I flip him and Travis Etienne. It's something that needs to be watched closely. But the bottom line is, it looks like the Patriots are not going to go into the season with Stevenson as the bell cow back. All right? And listen, Dalvin Cook still out there as well. And that brings me to the next item of the day. Breece Hall placed on the PUP list for the Jets to begin training camp. And the Jets opened camp yesterday. They're in the Hall of Fame game, so they opened up, a half a week earlier than most teams. And Hall immediately was placed on the PUP list. Now, Hall is, of course, coming back from the torn ACL in his knee. He did have some meniscus damage, which compounds things a little bit. Now, Javonte Williams in Denver had LCL, ACL, and MCL tears, so his was more severe. But The fact that the Jets have been mentioned with Ezekiel Elliott, early this winter, and now more recently Dalvin Cook, it leads you to believe that there is at least a chance that Cook is not going to be ready for week 1. Maybe he misses the first 4 games on the PUP list. And the fact that now the Patriots seem like they're out on Dalvin Cook, that could push Cook to the Jets. The Miami rumors are still there. But if Cook does wind up with the Jets, you can forget Breece Hall as a running back 1. It's just simply not going to happen. All right, he's going to have a 50-50 split with Cook, and that would be a pretty big blow to his value. I do think the Jets are being cautious. We've heard nothing but good things about Hall's recovery. He is a major, major running back 1 talent on the surface. But again, if Dalvin Cook shows up, then he drops to running back 2 in all formats. Now again, Hall's another guy that I really like. With Fournette in New England, and let's say Dalvin Cook ends up with the Jets, that takes 2 guys that I really like in that round 3-4 range and pushes them down a bit. That would make me more apt to be more aggressive, like I said, on Travis Etienne, on Jahmyr Gibbs, later on Rachaad White, David Montgomery. The Dameon Pierce thing scares me with Devin Singletary there. So there's now some, Miles Sanders, still love him. So I'm still all in on Miles Sanders in the 5th round. So there is some changing of the guard in my rankings in terms of the guys that I'm targeting at the running back position. And it's been nothing but volatility at running back all winter, now into the summer as training camps get set to open with the Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs situations. And it's really having an impact on fantasy football drafts, this early in the process. I've told all of you guys, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, I'm out on those guys. We don't know how long they're going to hold out. Are they going to hold out into the season? Are they going to get injured early in the season because they're missing training camp? Are they going to shut it down early at some point because they're trying to preserve their body for next season? These are all valid arguments to make in terms of how to adequately grade them for 2023 fantasy football. So, again, Breece Hall, not concerned yet at this point, but we got to see how long he's going to be ensconced on this PUP list. And also, Isiah Pacheco, another one. He's also on PUP list with the shoulder, so he's starting out on PUP. You could never convince me to go back in on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But Jerick McKinnon would become, even more interesting in PPR leagues. Isiah Pacheco needs to be mentioned here because unknowingly on his part, totally not his fault, is the Kansas City Chiefs winning a Super Bowl during Pacheco's rookie season after he was drafted in the 7th round as the starting running back for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. That, more than anything, really drove home the point that you could win the Super Bowl. You could win the whole thing with a 7th round starting running back who was barely drafted. He wasn't taken that much, but before Mr. Irrelevant there, Brock Purdy. So that alone, Pacheco's, draft status and starting running back status in the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl with the Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles, that did more to drive home the point about the running back position than anything else. And it gave general managers the ammunition to say, hey, we could win it all with a 7th round rookie running back. So, Barkley, Jacobs, not getting paid, all of this drama that's going on, you certainly can look at Pacheco's situation and say, that might have indirectly contributed to it. And listen, I don't have any answers for this. What I will say is that if the New York Giants took that $10.1 million franchise tag number that's assigned to Barkley and handed that to Dalvin Cook today, the Giants would win the same amount of games as they won last season. I'm sorry, but it's just a fact. You can't argue that point. So why should the Giants be beholden to give him that money? $22 million guaranteed. If Barkley goes on the open market next season, he's not getting $22 million guaranteed from anybody. Miles Sanders came off a really good season, got north of only $6 million from the Carolina Panthers. Okay? So Barkley is not going to see $22 million guaranteed if he hits the open market next season. He might be franchise tagged again. So you want to say pride, got in the way, what have you. Barkley should have taken the contract. Now, it's easy for me to say. Like I said, I think pride got in the way. I think if he would have sat back and took a deep breath, maybe he takes the deal. But, it's just a mess. I still don't think he holds out at all into the regular season. I don't think Josh Jacobs will do that either. I think Jacobs' situation is more dicey because the Raiders are going to be terrible this season. They're not going to be winning games, whereas the Giants have a shot to win games under the very capable leadership of Brian Daboll. So, does Jacobs at some point say, "No, Mas, I'm done. My knee hurts." Air quotes, my knee hurts. That's very possible. So, again, if you're interested in Josh Jacobs, if you're interested in Saquon Barkley, these are all things that you have to weigh. And that's why, again, you have your fantasy football draft as late into the summer as you possibly can. All right, this is why you do that. There's going to be preseason injuries. There's always preseason injuries. Somebody always goes down. I'm still scarred from Jordy Nelson a number of years ago. Non-contact injury, tore up his knee. All right, stuff like that happens every summer. Julian Edelman tore his ACL in a preseason game a couple of years ago. Well, more than a couple of years ago, but you get the point. So this is going to happen. It's going to happen again. Somebody's going to go down. All right? That's why you want to have that. And most teams don't even play their stars now anymore in the preseason, which is good from a fantasy perspective. All right? So that at least is mitigated somewhat in terms of guys not playing, key guys not playing during the preseason. All right? But, you're constantly walking that tightrope in terms of really your team being the healthiest by the end of the season. And that's what a lot of it is in fantasy football. Whose team is the healthiest going into the stretch run and into the playoffs? There's a lot of things about fantasy football that I think are kind of broken that need to be fixed somehow. A lot of frustrations in the game. I think the game needs to change a little bit. All right, I wanted to get into that today, too. I think fantasy football has become a little stale. I know for me, a couple of things that are pet peeves of mine. One is that if you lose a key player very early in their game in a given week, right? Let's say you have, Christian McCaffrey, and he goes down, early in the first quarter of his game, and you get a 0 or 1 or 2 points for that week from McCaffrey. Chances are you're losing that game, your matchup that week. And so I don't know how they would do this, but I almost wish that there was a situation where your lowest score in fantasy each week is automatically dropped. I don't think there's any software in any league that does it. If there is one, then let me know. And by the way, guys, make sure you submit your questions to me, rangerfan28@yahoo.com, and I'll use those questions on the podcasts. All right? So rangerfan28@yahoo.com, send me your questions. And also on the live streams, you could come in and pop your questions up as well. But I wish there was a mechanism where your lowest score each week could be dropped to guard against that skewing the weekly result. And then, of course, you have the classic situation where, you're the second highest scoring team of the week of everybody in your league, and the only person that outscored you was your opponent that week. That is very, very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. I think we all have dealt with that at some point or another. You're like, God damn it, I would have beaten everybody else in my league except for my opponent. And that just sucks, and you get a loss. I know that there's this all play app where you play not only your opponent, but the whole league. And so you have 2 games each week. You get a winner or loss against your head-to-head opponent, and you get a winner or a loss being in the top half of your scoring each week. So in other words, if there's 12 teams in the league, the 6 highest scoring teams get a W, the lowest 6 get a loss. I think that's great. I think that concept alone is great. I'd like to have a league where you just do that, where each week the top 6 highest scoring teams get the win and the lowest 6 get the loss, and just see how that plays out. And here's something I did a really long time ago. This is a really good idea. All right. It was when Survivor, I'm really dating myself right now. The show Survivor, it's been on forever. When that came out years and years ago. What I did in one of my fantasy football leagues is that we had a league with 16 teams. All right. And each week, the lowest scoring team was eliminated until there was only one team left. So by the end of week 16, the last team standing wins the whole pot. Winner take all, Survivor. And I think that's just a fucking awesome concept. All right, you should try it. Get 16 teams together. Get like a work league. I love when people blow through stop signs. Sorry, guys. You get like a 16-team work league. And each week, the lowest scoring team is out. And then you could also add a wrinkle where, like, each week, the highest scoring team is immune from being eliminated the following week. All right? It's awesome. Try it. I've been trying to do that again since, and I just haven't been able to get that many people into a league. And what you would do is, since you can't delete a team once the league starts, you have them change their, hopefully everybody cooperates, but there's always one asshole in every league who doesn't do the right thing. But what you do is you have them change their team name to just like the star symbol all the way across. So like star, 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 all the way across. So that shows that their team has been eliminated. All right. So that's a great concept. So like I said, you should try that. I think that's a really, really good concept to try to kind of, change up your league a little bit. Because like I said, I think fantasy football is getting a little stale. I think PPR leagues are the thing to, here to stay as the priority league now. Standard leagues I think are very limiting. I don't like super flex leagues. I don't like super flex leagues at all, actually. And as far as quarterbacks, I'm always down with the 6 points for a passing touchdown as opposed to 4. And, I've had a lot of discussions over this over the years. The reason why I prefer 6 is because it evens out the difference between a running quarterback and a passing quarterback. So, when Jalen Hurts scores a rushing touchdown, that's 6 points, right? Passing touchdown would be only 4 then. So if you're strictly a pocket passer like Kirk Cousins, you're not getting those 6 rushing touchdown points. So if you have 6 in passing, it evens it out a little bit. It removes some of the extra value that a Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields would carry, especially in single quarterback leagues. So, anybody who argues and says, oh, it should be only 4, no, nonsense. 6. All right. Now, while we're all moving to the rushing quarterback, as you should, you want to have 6 as the passing touchdown. All right. That's how you want to play it now. So, and in terms of the quarterbacks, like I said, you have to end up with one of the key 10 that I've been talking about. All right. So the key 10 that I've been referring to. So it's Pat Mahomes, obviously, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. Those are the big 3, but I don't think you should pay the freight for them in single quarterback leagues. So I think you should make a pass on those guys and then target Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow 4 and 5. Because those 2 guys could easily finish quarterback 1. Nobody would be shocked if either one of them finished quarterback 1. And they're coming cheaper than Hurts then Allen, and then Mahomes. And then after that, the next 5, you have Justin Fields, who's generally number 6. All right. You have Trevor Lawrence, who I absolutely am in love with. You all know that. Justin Herbert. All right. Deshaun Watson and Geno Smith. Yes, Geno Smith. All right. And I think 11, 12, you have Daniel Jones. And you look at the Giants' schedule, man, it's brutal in terms of defenses that they're going to be going up against. So definitely have some pause for Daniel Jones. But they have improved the offensive weapons there. But yes, you got to get one of those 10 quarterbacks. All right, because if you're in a 12-team league and you don't get one of those 10, then you're looking at Daniel Jones and you're looking at a boring Dak Prescott. All right. As a matter of fact, I would take Aaron Rodgers over Dak Prescott. I think Rodgers is going to be rejuvenated with the Jets. But yeah, you have to end up with one of those 10. And then at the wide receiver position, you got to end up with one of the big top 2 tiers out of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, who scares the shit out of me. I've seen places where Cooper Kupp is ranked number 1, which is ridiculous. Love the talent, but he's crossed the age 30 threshold, and he's had 2 serious injuries the last 4 years. He's got a quarterback who's 1 hit away from retirement. The offensive line is horrendous. There's no support for him at all offensively in terms of other receivers. But anyway, so those 4. Then you have Stephon Diggs in that next group. That's 5. A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Adams, who you all know I'm fading, CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson. All right, so those are the 10 right there that, you really got to look at. I'm planning to pass on St. Brown because I want David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs, and I don't want all those guys from the same offense. I really like CeeDee Lamb. I really like A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown has grown on me now that he's with Philadelphia. I've been hard on him in the past because he ran a little hot and cold. And injuries were an issue in Tennessee. But I'm liking all of those guys. And I've said this a million times too. Amon-Ra St. Brown is just a younger Keenan Allen. He's going to catch 100 passes. He's going to go over 1,000 yards. He's going to have 5, 6, 7 touchdowns. Which is just all right. But I'm all about the touchdowns this year. I really want to construct a team where I have a high probability of touchdowns at every position. My habitual pass was to go with the Keenan Allens, guys who would catch 1 million passes, but maybe lacking in the touchdown department. And in the end, that does hurt you. Because again, the touchdown, you catch a touchdown pass, you get 6 for the touchdown, you get 1 for the catch itself, and then you get the yardage, whatever it may be. So, Jamar Chase, love him. A.J. Brown, love him because of the touchdowns. Love him more than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Love CeeDee Lamb. Devontae Adams, ordinarily you'd love him. But God, I hate that offense. I just hate that offense. I just don't see Jimmy Garoppolo throwing the deep ball enough. He can't. He just doesn't throw a good deep ball like Derek Carr did. Say what you want about Derek Carr. He threw a good deep ball. Okay? So, you all know I love Travis Kelce. I want those touchdown guys. David Montgomery. Listen, a year ago at this time, nobody was talking about Jamal Williams. Goes down and he rushes for 17 touchdowns. You mean to tell me that David Montgomery is not capable of at least 12 in that offense behind that line? Nonsense. So David Montgomery should be a heavy target in the 8th round. This guy leads the NFL. He's right up in the top of the NFL every year in broken tackles. Now I get it. He's not explosive. He's boring as hell. But he's a good receiver. And that's another thing about Montgomery. He caught a lot of passes in college at Iowa State. He is a good receiver. Now Jahmyr Gibbs is explosive. He's going to play that DeAndre Swift. He's going to catch 60 passes. All right. But how many touchdowns is Gibbs going to have? He's probably going to have 3 or 4 through the air. Maybe 2 or 3 on the ground. All right. So that's still behind David Montgomery's total. Let's say Montgomery has 1 touchdown catch and 12 on the ground. That's 13. So he's going to be, his touchdown numbers, points totals, are going to be sort of in the ballpark of Jahmyr Gibbs' total point numbers as well. So, listen, there's there's a lot of potential with David Montgomery this season. I mean, if you want that high catch running back, you could wait a little bit and take Rachaad White later on instead of Jahmyr Gibbs. And now listen, I love Jahmyr Gibbs. I really do. I'm fine with either one of them. All right. If I'm getting A.J. Brown and C.D. Lamb at the back of round 1, and I'm good with Jahmyr Gibbs later on as my first running back in the 4th round. And then there's Aaron Jones. I can't quit this guy, to quote a famous movie. I just can't quit Aaron Jones. All right, I've had Aaron Jones every year. And I'm probably going to have him again this year. 4th and 5th round he's going in. He averaged over 5 a carry last year. He catches over 50 passes every year. He misses a game or two here or there, but he is as explosive as it gets still at 28 years old. And listen, he's got more tread on his tires than most guys his age because he's been splitting work at A.J. Dillon the last 3 years. He's never really been that bell cow back. He split time with Jamal Williams, early on in his career. So there's a lot of tread left on the tires for Aaron Jones. So I think Aaron Jones is somebody I'm just destined to end up with again. Now, there's frustrating weeks, no doubt about it. When you see Aaron Jones carry the ball all the way down the field and then A.J. Dillon comes in and vultures a 1-yard touchdown run and drives you fucking crazy. Like, I get it. But it is all about value when drafting in fantasy football. And you want to minimize the injury risk. How do you minimize the injury risk? You don't draft running backs in the first 2 rounds. How do you maximize your value? You draft running backs in round 3, 4, and 5 who are going to lead their team in touches, a la Aaron Jones, a la Travis Etienne, a la Miles Sanders. And have a chance to reach, top 5, 6 status, but don't carry that risk that the first guys that are going in the first 2 rounds have. Because if you lose your starting running back that you took in the first 2 rounds, you're dead. It's very, very difficult to recover from that. So that's how you got to play it. So anyway, guys, have a great day. I'm going to end it here. Live stream tomorrow. Submit your questions, rangerfan28@yahoo.com. Hit the subscribe button. More on the way. We'll see you later.